Welcome to the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast, the #1 resource for automotive sales professionals, managers, and owners to learn how to make money, accumulate wealth, and to all out ball out in the auto industry. And now your hosts, Sean V. Bradley and L.A. Williams.
Hey everybody, this is Sean B. Bradley, president of Dealer Synergy and the creator of the Millionaire Car Salesman Group. And I've got a special guest, RON Gaverick from Street Volkswagen, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did I say it right this time? Did I say it the right way? Okay,
yes,
good.
Sir.
All right, so this is season 2. So what we want to do is I want to just keep the momentum going in the group. You have been, an acquaintance, a friend for many, many moons. And this is the first time that I have had the honor to be able to kind of just dive deep into your background. So let's start with just tell everybody a little bit about your automotive career.
I started about 10 years ago, worked at a Ford dealership. And what happened there was I was working for a newspaper, getting advertisements part-time, and then working at a funeral home another part of the time. And I was trying to make some money. Because people weren't dying in the funeral business. So I went to this Ford dealership and I asked them, hey, do you guys want to run some advertising when it comes to, advertising your vehicles? Because I see the same vehicles on your lot 2 weeks in a row. And they happened to tell me, well, we want to advertise, but we want to advertise for salespeople. And they asked me if I ever thought about selling cars. I said, no, guys, you guys are liars, cheaters, manipulators, crooks, womanizers, drug addicts. I want nothing to do with it. With this internet coming, I don't want to blast my dad's last name all over the internet for being a crook. And they said, what if you could do it being honest? And I said, is that possible? And they said, yeah, but one thing, you got to stay at the dealership. You can't move around and think the grass is greener on the other side. And I said, so if I'm being honest, I can sell cars. And they said, absolutely. How much do you make at the newspaper right now? I said, I make $1,500 a month. They said, what if we can double that? And I was like, well, people aren't dying and the newspaper business is a dying breed. So, I'll take a shot. And my first day I sold 2 cars and I didn't know what I was doing. And from there, I was just like, wow, if it's going to be that easy, then I may need to look a little bit more into this. And so I was like a sponge. I was asking questions. Well, I had old dogs that were my mentors. So the guy that was training me, his name was Bull. And I said, well, why do they call you Bull? And he goes, because I'm a bully. I make them buy the car. And he goes, this is what we're going to do. We're going to marry up. You're going to go out there and you're going to go and get the customer. You're going to show them the car. You're going to gather all their information. And then once we start talking about numbers, I'll close the deal and you go get another customer, which I thought that was pretty cool because I was like, I don't have to be the bad guy. I'm the good cop. He's the bad cop. And so we did that for about 6 months till the new GM came in. He asked me what the heck we were doing. And I said, we're married up, all proud and everything. And he goes, no, you're going to sell your own cars. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. And he goes, well, you're going to learn. Get out there on the lot. So I went and up the customer. Customer said, hey, I'll do business with you, but you got to pay the tax, title, and license. Well, that was a light bulb for a TO. So I get up, I go get him, and I said, hey, boss, they want you to pay the tax, title, and license. He goes, oh, okay, where are they at? I said, they're sitting at my desk. So he gets up and says, hey, I was just talking to Ron, and Ron told me that you're wanting us to pay for your tax, title, and license. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. And we'll buy the car. And he goes, you know what? Get the heck out of my lot. Don't ever come back. So I ran to the finance department and I was talking to the finance manager. I said, hey man, I can't have him keep doing this to all my customers. What do I got to do to be able to make more sales and make more money here? He goes, you're going to have to learn how to do it by yourself. I said, well, how do I do that? And he goes, you better find out. So I started reading books. I got on YouTube. I found Jim Ziegler. I found Sean B. Bradley. I found Steve Richards. So I was the internet manager, but I was getting paid as a salesperson. So I started watching all your videos on how to talk to people on the phone. I started watching Steve Richard videos on how to present numbers. And then this guy came along named Grant Cardone. So I learned how to close deals through Grant Cardone. And then gradually through my years, I definitely didn't want to be in finance, but this is where I am today. And I've broke some records here at the dealership in finance, being the finance director, but I still didn't know how to close customers in the finance department. And that's where I found Shaka Dyson. And then I met up with Corey Mosley, and
all right. So stop. Let's go in, because this is perfect segue. A couple things. Let's go back to some accomplishment. What's the most amount of cars you sold in a month?
In a month, I sold 33 cars.
That's my number. Okay, that was the most I've ever sold too. So much respect to you. So you hit the 30 mark. How long were you on the floor or internet sales manager before you went into finance?
Okay. I went in my first full year. I sold 196 cars, and I was number one out of 500 in the group. And I thought I was a big deal. And the guy asked me, the guy that got second place, he goes, "Man, you've got to be making, $250,000, $300,000 a year." And I said, "Man, I haven't even broke 100 yet."
Wow.
And he told me, he goes, "Well, man, I sold 60 cars less than you, and I made over $150,000. And he goes, "So is that award that you received that important, or do you want to make more money?" And I said, "I want to make." Yeah. I said, "I want to make more money." He goes, "Then you're going to have to know how to work your deals." So the second year, I sold 298 units that year, and I was number one again, but I already broke $150,000. The next year, I sold 318 cars, number one again, and then they moved me into management. They fired the GM, and they moved me into management. So then I became the GM of the Ford store before I came to this dealership I am here today.
Okay, so let's go through a couple things. So you're a 30 car person. You hit 33 as your top month. For 3 years in a row, out of 500 sales professionals, you were number one for 3 years in a row.
3 years in a row in a small town.
That is insane. Okay, then you went into management. You became a general manager of a Ford dealership. How did you wind up in finance?
So I came into finance through coming to Street Volkswagen. They hired me as a salesperson first. 3 months later, they moved me into the BDC to be the BDC director. And at first, I didn't like the BDC due to the fact the dealership I was at before, our BDC would set us up with appointments, and they were based out of Dallas, and I'm up here in the Panhandle of Texas. They would set appointments for customers. I would call them, like any salesman should do, call them to confirm the appointment. "Hey, this is me. I'd see you at 3:30 and whatnot." And they're like, "I didn't set an appointment. I told them I wasn't coming in." They were pushing me to come in. So I absolutely did not like the BDC department. And the GM told me, he goes, "I understand you don't like the BDC, but make it the way you want it." And so I thought about it for a while, and I said, "Okay, I'll take the job." When I walked into the BDC department, they only had 26 internet sold leads in their department. And when I left, we were doing over 100. And it was guidance of watching your videos and then going to the Internet Sales 20 group and talking to everybody around there. After bringing the numbers into the BDC, over 100 leads sold, the finance director quit, and I was asked if I wanted to come into finance because you made more money. And so I said, absolutely.
What was your top month on the back end? How much did you gross on the back end average?
We average $1,800 a copy.
Woo! $1,800 a copy on the back. That is strong. Sir. Okay. So now this podcast is called the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast. The whole concept is how to make more money for yourself, for your organization, for your family, and how to evolve. Okay. What I'm hearing, which is very interesting about your background, is not how you got into it. You got into it like most of us got into it, by accident. It wasn't the first choice, but once you were in it, you had to figure out how to fend for yourself. So let's talk about that. How is it safe to say, from what I heard you say, is that there was really no guidance, there was really no yellow brick road on what to do, and so there's something in you said, well, man, look, I'm either going to drown, I got to learn how to swim, and you taught yourself how to swim, metaphorically speaking, by watching Sean V. Bradley videos, Grant Cardone videos, Richard videos, etc. how do you feel that the industry is as a whole? Do you feel it's the same thing everywhere, that some dealerships train, but most of them don't, and you either have to, sink or swim? Is that true or false statement?
It's true. I mean, when I got in, I was told there's a computer, and that database there is a CRM. Good luck. And
okay. So if that's the case, then what is your advice? Because the reality is this, like, let's just cut through the bullshit. Most dealerships don't train. They don't bother. They rather just, interchange salespeople like they're disposable Dixie cups instead of invest in their people. So for all the, fledgling salespeople, or even the experienced salespeople to listen to this podcast, what advice do you have for them on how they could self-educate? What information do you think that they could get out there, and where do they find it?
I always go with the saying that true leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders. And the deal with that is, if a manager is complaining about a salesperson not selling X amount of cars and holding X amount of gross, that's because of them. The salesmen follow with the training that they get from their managers. And I learned that very easily coming into this business. Even when you would ask the customer or ask the manager for advice, he didn't even know how to train you. And so it made me upset all the time that the leader that was supposed to be leading the charge didn't even know how to close a deal. And by closing a deal, the only thing he knew how to do is lower the price.
So Ron, I agree. My question is, your advice to the salespeople listening to this right now: where can they go to get this information?
Guys, go on YouTube, read a book, get with Sean B. Bradley on Dealer Synergy.
Let's start with YouTube. Let's go through that. YouTube. That's a great. So YouTube is great because it's videos. So let's be specific. What should they be typing into YouTube to find these magical videos?
What I typed in is how to sell a car in a car dealership.
Okay, how to sell a car in a car dealership. How to average 30 cars a month on the showroom floor. Keep going. Let's go through some keyword searches we can help these people with.
You can also type in how to present numbers at a car dealership, how to sell cars off the internet. You just keep going in and just typing, and you're going to have some of the BS that people are not experienced at. But if you have your followers, I mean, I'm subscribed through Sean, through Shaka, through Corey, through Steve Richards, Grant Cardone. And every time you guys pop a video up, I get a notification that I need to watch that day.
I like it. Let's go with this. Let's go with this really quick right here, folks. Okay. So, YouTube is the number 2 search engine on the planet. There's more searches through YouTube than AOL, Bing, Yahoo, Ask Jeeves, all that combined. And of course, Google owns YouTube. So what we want to be able to do is just think about it. If you just go through the day, to Ron's point, if you type into YouTube how to structure a deal, how to overcome objections at a car dealership, how to do an awesome walk around presentation, or you could start putting in specific, objections and rebuttals, such as, I'm just looking, I need to ask the spouse, I need to think about it, etc. You got to just turn around, and here's a safe way, Ron, would you think this is great? If you just write down all the things that you're challenged about. So if I'm a salesperson and I'm saying I'm having problems with my walk around, okay, write that down. If I'm having problems with objections and rebuttals, I'm writing that down. If I've got a question about this, whatever your problems are, just YouTube search it, and there will be an answer that's there. Now, to Ron's other point, you got to think about who's really winning right now. Again, thank you, Ron, for the kudos. Sean B. Bradley, Dealer Synergy, but then Shaka Dyson for F&I. You got Grant Cardone for closing. Steve Richards for presenting numbers. If you find these trainers or these subject matter experts, you can subscribe to their channels. Okay, so this is really great. You can get a lot of free information from YouTube, but just like we just did for YouTube, you can get this information from also Google. Now, Ron, you are in the Millionaire Car Salesman group. Talk about the group itself. Do you feel that there's value for free that somebody can get from a Facebook group like ours?
And being in the Millionaire Car Sales group, I'm actually mentoring 3 guys right now out of your group. And
our group,
and they'll sit there and they'll tell me how their day's going. They'll say, hey, I got 3 appointments today. 2 already showed, I already sold those 2. I'm hoping for a hat trick. And if they reach that hat trick, what happens is they'll send me another message going, man, the advice that you gave me to get that third one sold, I just received $200 for a hat trick today. I appreciate all the information you give me and guidance. And I enjoy that, because if you're helping somebody, it makes you feel good. And it's not always all about me. It's if I can help somebody become better than me, then that's what makes me satisfied every day. And with those mentorships, I mean, it's wonderful when the guys are saying, man, I'm having a bad day. I don't even know if I'm really in needing to be in the car business. I don't know if this is for me. And just the words of advice that you give them, you know, and they come back and they're like, man, you know, I was doubting myself, but you just gave me that one little sentence that you told me made my day. And I sold 2 cars today and made X amount of gross. And my family was happy, and they want to thank you for helping me out, because I had doubts and you helped me out. So I love that part of the program.
Let me build into that right there. Pause. Okay, so everybody's clear. In the Millionaire Car Salesman group, it's a closed group on Facebook. It's part of, obviously, this podcast, and there's actual software that's built into the social learning structure of the Millionaire Car Salesman group, where you could be either a mentee, meaning you could be mentored, or you could be a mentor, where you could find, like Ron is, people that you could take under your wing. Now, Ron, one thing that Covey says, and this is such a powerful thing, if you learn something but know that you have to teach somebody, your retention and utilization of that information is really powerful. So I don't even know if you realize this, but by you being a mentor and you sharing your experiences, it actually makes you a more powerful manager and a more powerful subject matter expert, because sometimes, not that we forget, but we don't utilize all the information that we learn or that we know. I mean, we only use what's really comfortable or low-hanging fruit for us as human beings. But if we know that we have the ability to, or the responsibility to teach somebody, guess what? The utilization is going to be that much more powerful. So I commend you. I did not know that you were mentoring 3 different people in our group. And that's definitely awesome. Continue, sir.
So, I mean, it's a great group. Now, you may get some of those people that are in the group that don't belong because they just want to start trouble, or they want to talk bad about it. And we don't need all that negativity. I mean, we need to help each other in this group so we can better each other. I mean, I don't know all the answers, so I'll go to the group and I'll read some stuff and think to myself, I don't know that. I didn't know that, but now I can use that when I'm talking to a customer or when I'm talking to another salesperson, because they're a sponge too. They want to learn everything as possible. So, and I always tell them, hey, you need to get into this group so you can, learn as much as that I've learned.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to have, like, we're almost up to 15,000 members. Like, and to your point, like, we do have some bad apples that squeak through, but our moderators, you're one of the moderators. There's so many moderators that are in the group that we get to weed those people out. But to have the ability to bounce ideas or questions or problems towards 15,000 other automotive professionals that are like you, that want to do more, be more, achieve more, to me is really, it's invaluable. Okay, so I think this is really great. So we talked about YouTube, we talked about Google, we talked about the group. Now, you mentioned books. Let's go through your preferred reading. Okay, so what books would you recommend?
Negotiate to Close: How to Make More Successful Deals by Gary Karas. I'm reading one right now, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. And then I'm reading another one, Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion.
I love it, man. I absolutely love it. I'm going to give a couple recommendations that I always love to give. So The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey is a great book.
Yes, sir.
There's a book called The Purple Cow by Seth Godin, which is a great book. Rich Dad, Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki. And then The Secret from Rhonda Byrne. So I'm going to kind of go through them. See, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is about time maximization, organization, leadership, communication. It's a really an amazing holistic approach type book. Then when you look at Seth Godin, The Purple Cow, people ask me about my orange tie and about branding. Seth Godin is, if you guys like Gary Vee, well, Gary Vee is a puppy, in my opinion, compared to Seth Godin. Seth Godin is like the godfather of marketing. He's absolutely brilliant. He's written other books, but I think The Purple Cow is a very powerful book. And then Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a book about money. And it is about understanding money, wealth accumulation, and assets versus liabilities, but it's written in such an easy way that the layperson could understand finances and how to be successful. And then the last one that I like is The Laws of Attraction and Manifestation by Rhonda Byrne. But regardless, here's what's sad is that the average CEO reads about 60 books a year, but the average American reads less than one book a year. I'm a best-selling author and I'm signed. And my publisher, Wiley Publishing, told me after I signed my deal, is like, Sean, you do realize that the average American reads less than one book a year. And I think this is what one of our challenges is, that we want to be successful. We want to be rich. We want this, we want that, but we don't want to put in the work. And so I definitely think creating a regimen of reading, or reading doesn't necessarily mean literally reading with your eyes. Okay. Because of the advent of audiobooks like Audible, or, you have the ability to turn around and actually read books on audio when you're driving to and from work. So speak about that, Ron.
Funny thing is, you mentioned that I have the book and the Audible on my phone. So when I drive an hour from work and home every day. So I'll be reading the book and then I'll go where I left off on the Audible while I'm driving home. And, you get home faster. And I wish it wasn't like that sometimes, because you'll just get into the Audible and the information it provides, and then you have to shut it off and go inside. But I mean, I have the book and the Audible all the time. So I'm always learning, because if you don't do it, then you're going to go in a different direction in your career. So, and I always get made fun of. They're like, you always have a book in your hand. You're always listening to something. You're always watching a training video. And I'm like, I got to do this for you guys.
Wait a minute. The guy that was the number one salesperson out of 500 for 3 years in a row, the guy that became a general manager for a dealership, the guy they're making fun of you. Okay. This is what I know you're just saying that, like, not literally, like, you know what I mean? Like, right. They're bringing it up. But my point being is that's why you're so successful, because you're self-educated, because you've invested in yourself. It's like a bank account. You can't withdraw $10,000 from the bank unless you deposited $10,000 into the bank. You can't withdraw money. You can't make money unless you've invested and deposited that knowledge on how you could secure that. Ron?
And I tell them all the time, I said, man, I didn't go to college, but I got a PhD. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, I'm poor, hungry, and determined to better myself every single day.
Man, I love it. That's strong. A PhD. Okay. Poor, hungry, and determined. Okay, Ron, I need to change this. And for the next part of the interview, I want to go into money, because it is called the Millionaire Car Salesman. Okay. Give me some tips or advice that you have to your people, that on how to gross on the showroom floor. So if you're a salesperson, how can you turn around and be able to justify grossing on a deal? How do you do that?
You got to stop selling on the price. You got to show the features and benefits of the car, show the value. I always have salesmen come up to me going, hey, they want to know if you can take another $1,000 off. And I go, I can't take the wheels off the car. I can't take the windshield wipers off the car. It is what it is. You didn't sell the value of the car and why it's priced where it's at. Now, let me ask you, did they see it online? Well, yeah. So they didn't see the second best price. They seen the first best price, right? Well, yeah. I'll tell you right now, looking on the internet is like looking in a newspaper Sunday morning when you're pulling out the coupons. If you've seen it online, it's a coupon. You bring it in and said, hey, I see it online. You give them the internet price. But we're not here in this business to have cars on our lot as a museum. We have cars on our lot so we can sell them. So when you look online, you see the first best price. So stop cutting yourself short and start selling on value instead on price. And I guarantee your CSIs will be 100% more than if you take a price off.
I love it. And you mentioned Jim Ziegler. As you know, that I used to rock with Jim for a good 10 years. And, like Jim and I were like peas in a pod. And one thing I learned from Jim that he used to reinforce is that the key to profit in a deal is down payment. How do you feel about that?
I think some dealerships are coming off the down payment because they make that perception that the customer is not going to have the money down. And that starts at the desk. And, salesmen will always ask, how much money are you going to put down? And the customer will always say, I don't have any money to put down. but then they go to the desk and they tell the whole story. They don't have any money to put down. They need to be at $320 a month. It has to be 84 months so they can get there. And they want you to take another $1,500, $2,000 off the price. And then you pencil the deal with $4,000 down, their payments $450, and they start freaking out. And they're not educated. The salesman and the customer are not educated to know, hey, if you put money down, not only will it pay for your taxes, not only will it help you with the vehicle stay in appreciation, but it also helps lower, and you may get a lower interest rate if the amount of money you put down. They don't understand it. And it's our fault as managers that we're not teaching that. We're not training it every single day on why it's important to put money down.
No, 100%. So then you are in the same philosophy as me and Jim Ziegler, that obviously that, down payment is key to profitability. You want to be able to educate, inform both the salesperson, but as well as the prospect, and why putting in down payment is absolutely imperative. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. All right. So now let's just say that you are in an F&I, because this is like, I used to do special finance, but never on the spin and the paper side. The most that I did, and this is trivia that most people don't know, is that when I worked for Porsche, Jaguar, Aston Martin, we didn't have F&I. So the salespeople used to do F&I themselves. So that was my experience, almost kind of how like Ali Rada does F&I, but that's the extent of my F&I. I have never been an F&I manager. It's never been my forte. When I was a Highline salesperson, we used to do F&I as well. Other than that, I know very little. So my question to you is this. I know for a fact that there's dealers out there that are averaging $700, $800 a copy on the back end. And, having like $1,400 a copy is really, really good. But for you to be at $1,800 a copy, man, that for me is mind blowing. So tell me, what are the keys to your success that you're able to hold $1,800 average on the back end?
You got to know your product. You got to know what you're selling. You got to show the features and benefits. You're not done selling till the customer signs the paperwork. And if they're buying a used vehicle and the factory warranty is already out, you got to show them why it's important to invest in another extended service contract, because, it pays 100% parts, 100% labor, nationwide coverage, except in Mexico. You got to show them why it's important to buy gap and maintenance and everything, and break it down in pennies, not in big dollars, because once they see a $50 bump, they start freaking out. But if you take $50 divided by 30 days, what do you get? $1.67 extra a day. So you show them their payment without the coverage, and then you show their payment with the coverage. Would it make more sense to pay another $1.67 extra a day to have coverage on this vehicle for 5 years, 100,000 miles, than to be left without? Because no matter what, you're still paying the money up, or paying the same money. It's just you're doing it in small payments here than paying big dollars when the issue happens. And it's just believing in yourself, believing in the product you're selling, and knowing that your best interest is there for the customer, not for yourself.
Okay. Now, what about people that come into the box and they're like, look, I can't, I don't have enough. I barely was able to agree to this term here. How do you want to bump in somebody that thinks that they're out of gas?
Well, you just ask them if the cost wasn't an issue and you had all these products, which one would you see the most benefit in? And then they would tell you, and then you start listening to them instead of talking. Mm-hmm. You start listening to the customer, and they're going to tell you what's more important for them. And then they're going to, once they talk themselves into, hey, I need a maintenance. You're right. It's going to cost X amount of dollars. I can afford an extra $12 a month to buy this maintenance plan. They're going to tell you what they're going to buy. And so you don't have to sell it. You just got to show them the features and benefits of it, and how it's going to affect them if they don't get it, compared to how it's going to affect them if they do get it. They're going to be a lot happier in the end, because the one thing if they buy it and they had a $50 bump 2-3 years down the road, you see them in the service department, they're not going to talk to you about how much you bumped them in a payment. They're going to talk to you about how much money you saved them by them buying an extended service contract or maintenance.
No, absolutely. So let's go through this, again, because you are an F&I, I'm not. What are the most common objections that a business manager, F&I manager gets when they're presenting product? What are the biggest objections?
I don't see the value in it. I don't need it. I bought it before and I never used it, which I always come back. Well, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Right. Um, but it's, you get them all the time because they're not educated on what it's for. In other dealerships that they've been at, they'll say the product was never covered. Well, whatever warranty they bought, the finance manager didn't talk to them about what was covered. They just sold the product, said goodbye. And when they go into the service department, let the service department tell them, oh yeah, that part's not covered because you were only covered for 250 parts. And this one's over here in the 750 parts. And so you just sit them down and you educate them. You go through what's covered and what's not covered, and then they'll make the decision which product they want to buy.
Strong. Okay, I want to transition to the next part of this. Ron, you mentioned, the most amount that you've made in unit-wise that you sold was like 33. You also shared your numbers. Question for you: what's the most amount of income that you've generated in your career in 1 year?
In 1 year, I brought in around $250,000.
Praise God. I mean, that's strong. Okay, $250,000. There's very few people in the country that are able to generate that type of revenue. So my question is, what is your recommendations? Because there's a lot of people like myself. I was young and stupid, and I bought things that bling bling, and part of the group that we have in this podcast is how to be fiscally responsible. Meaning is that if you generate, $100, $150, $200, $250,000, don't buy rims that spin. How do you recommend to other automotive professionals, maybe under your command or under your influence, or just your colleagues, that if they are able to be blessed and to generate this type of revenue, how should they invest their money and what should they do with it so they can make that money grow?
When I was selling cars, if my manager wanted me to always buy, the F-150 Platinums or buy a bigger house. And I asked him one day, I said, why are you telling me to buy all this stuff? And he goes, because then you'll be more hungry to sell more cars because then you have to pay for it. And so when I got into management, I have a nice car and a truck and a camper. But I told these guys, I said, if you're going to spend your money that you've made and earned, invest in yourself. Spend that money to better yourself every single day. That's going to conferences. That's going to workshops. That's, going online and buying these VT programs. If it's through you or Brad Lee or anybody, to learn your craft, to get better. I want you to have so much financial freedom that you don't have to work hard, work these 14, 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, missing holidays, missing vacations, or going to see your kids at their football games or whatnot. Invest in yourself to better yourself, and you'll see the outcome in the future.
I absolutely would concur. A couple of things, my daughter, obviously, Tiana Mick T, got your keys. She's in the business. And what I'm telling her, and this is what Grant Cardone talks about. And this, I truly respect this. And it's what you just said, invest in yourself, because no matter what happens, if you've got that knowledge, and let's say you lose it all, let's say the economy craps itself or what have you. But if you know how to hustle right, you know how to make moves, you know how to prospect, generate referrals, etc., you will always have a career. You will always have revenue coming through. So that you can't lose if you invest in yourself. The next thing is invest in your business, is build your brand. So if you're on the showroom side, you should build your brand. So for example, if your T got your keys, you should be invested in marketing, advertising, branding, a website, yada, yada, yada. And then the last thing is invest in assets that mature, that will, develop equity or will be able to provide you passive income. So for example, one of the things that I'm going to share with you, Ron, that I'm doing with my daughter is she's only 20 years old. And instead of her buying a house, like the old school American dream, buy a house, I said, honey, this is what you're going to do. You're going to keep renting and you're going to get a duplex. Okay. With the duplex, you either could turn around and rent out both tenants, and have income coming through, or you could live in one of the units and then rent out the other unit and either pay for most or all of your mortgage. The whole point that I'm saying is that I think that in our industry, there's so much cash potential that could come in. There's so much revenue that could come in a month. I mean, $10,000, $12,000 a salesperson could generate if they bust their ass in a month. With that revenue, they should be feeding that into other things that are going to generate either passive income like rental properties, or they're going to be able to develop equity that's going to develop into revenue. What are your thoughts about that type of a strategy?
It all starts with your trunk. Your career is like a tree, and you start with your trunk. And if it's selling cars, that's your trunk. Then once you establish your trunk and you start watering it and fertilizing it and getting sunlight on it, then your branches will branch out. And then once you start making that money, then you can get into real estate. Then you can do other things with. But if you're going into real estate first and buying a house and then trying to rent it out, your tree's going to die. You're going to have too much on one branch and your tree's going to bend over. So what happens is you establish what your tree trunk is. And then when you start branching out, then you start doing these other things that you want to do with your money, but don't waste it. Don't buy PX or Xboxes and 85-inch TVs and rims on your tires and invest in yourself. Keep that money, because if the economy does go down, like you said, you're not going to have any money, and then you're going to go into depressed mode, or you're going to go, oh shit, what am I going to do? I don't have the money, and then you're going to be working at McDonald's making $15 an hour. Always invest in yourself and keep that money. And once you start establishing that your trunk is solid, then start branching out. And then, you may want to retire at 50 or 55 so you can spend time with your family. But you just got to not buy stupid things. Not everything's materialistic. Invest in yourself, because I go to Walmart every day and I see these 90-year-old people asking me if I want a cart. And I'm 41, and I'm thinking 50 years from now, I don't want to be one of those people. And I started late in my career in selling cars. I was 30 when I got in. If I would have known about the car business and how much money I'd be making, I would have started doing it when I was 20. But I was stupid and I was young, and I wanted to be a stand-up comedian or in the entertainment business. And it just, it just blows me away, these young guys that get in the business and they're wanting to buy all the expensive stuff, and I'm bringing them back down to reality, saying, chill.
That's because of the damn internet, because people see all this stuff out there, all these rappers, these reality TV show stars and stuff, but they don't understand that some of that shit, most of that shit is rented. Most of that stuff is rented, or it's leased, or it's borrowed, and it's not real. It is an illusion, and people work their asses off to just buy Gucci belts that they can't afford, but they don't have any savings. So, for me, the things that I think that are really important is, again, to recap this part of it, invest in yourself. Knowledge is truly power. Build your network up. Invest in the people and your influence around you. Then invest in your business. You have to have your business grow, or you're going to be dead in the water. The next and final thing I would say is buy things that are going to either mature, get value, or provide you passive income. Okay, so Ron, you've listened to these podcasts before. Try to imagine, like, you have your hour drive. Try to imagine some automotive professional, manager, or owners listening to you and I in their car, on Spotify or iTunes as they're driving to or from work. What other words of wisdom do you want to leave them with?
EDMED. EDMED. Every day means every day. You've got to do everything every day, the same thing over and over and over. So if you plan on selling 300 cars a month, making X amount of dollars in gross, you got to have that same mindset every day. I always tell my guys, I said, goals are the greatest opportunity anyone likely to succeed. And they look at me and they're, what do you mean by that? I said, if you have a goal, you have the opportunity to succeed. You just got to find out what your goals are. And we talk about it every day. They come into my office and I say, how many cars are you going to sell today? And how much money are you going to make on those cars? Because, you could be a volume store and have low profit. I want my guys to think money-wise. How much money are you going to make today? Write out your bills every month, and every time you sell a car, make a check mark. I already paid that bill off. I already paid this bill off. Oh, I got to sell 2 more cars to make up my house payment. And then once you sell those 2 cars and make that house payment, you click it off. And at the end of the month, whatever's left over is money that you can invest in yourself.
Strong. Listen, I'm going to tell you, I've been in the industry 21 years. I am very, very impressed with what you've accomplished in your short career. You know what I mean? Like you said, you started when you were in your 30s. First of all, to be number 1 out of 500 in an organization is powerful. It's surreal. But to do that 3 times back to back to back is impressive. Then to go from that to management and then to influence people, I sincerely mean this. I really wish that most managers had your mindset and your heart, because, you know, I see how you are with your people. I see how you send them to our conferences and how you have them in the groups. And again, you know, you're either going to be influenced positively or negatively. And you're one of the good guys in our industry that tries so hard to positively influence people. Not only do you have people in your own organization, but I just found out today that you're mentoring 3 people from our Millionaire Car Salesman group. And again, I'm eternally grateful, and I'm really proud to be able to do this interview with you. And I look forward for it coming out for season 2 of the Millionaire Car Salesman podcast.
I do too. And one thing I want to end is, Sean, when I lost my excuses, I found my reason.
Ooh, say that again.
When I lost my excuses, I found my reason.
Amen, brother.
And what that means is when I stopped thinking about myself and how much money I was going to make, because when I went into management, I was out selling my guys. So for them to see me move up from the top salesman to the manager. When I was selling cars, I didn't care about what they sold or how much money they were going to make. And then when I became a manager, I was like, oh crap, I got to train these guys to be like me or be better than me so I can make money, or this dealership's not going to profit. And the funny thing is, at those dealerships, I have every one of those guys working for me today here. I recruited them to come work for me. And they are the guys that are making the most profit at this dealership because of how I trained them before.
Strong, brother. Strong. And again, they're very lucky to have you as an influence in their lives. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Sean.
Take care, brother.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you like it, you love it, you want more of it, then don't wait for the next money show. Just go to bradleyondemand.com and take your career to the next level.